sometimes. Don't worry, it'll be just fine. But I can help you carry it now. And we'll march onward. Weather out the storm until it's no more. 'Cause I'll always be with you. I'll be your home. No matter where you go, you won't be alone. 'Cause I'll always be with you. I'll be your home. I'll be your The world gets cloudy sometimes. But don't worry, it'll clear in time. But I can help you figure it out. And we'll stay starlight. Weather out the storm until it's no more. 'Cause I'll always be with you. I'll be your home. No matter where you go, you won't be alone. 'Cause I'll always be with you. I'll be your home. I'll be your
The premier sports talk radio, it's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.
Welcome back to another great episode of Tony's Takes live right here on YouTube for the best show in sports talk radio. It is Tony's Takes, and unfortunately I am alone in the studio today, not joined by my co-host Jimmy D, who would usually be sitting next to me, but that's okay. Jimmy's on his honeymoon, and so of course we can't expect him to be here. He might be in the chat for all you know. They do have internet where he is. I don't know if they have phone service though, because he would have called in to make his picks on the Eagles. Of course, me and Jim both went 2-0 last week, so that's always disappointing. But today's episode is really going to be around St. Joe's basketball. And actually, I got to do something real quick, so everyone hold on 1 second. Okay, there was a fan on in the background, and I wanted to make sure that my audio feed wasn't picking it up, so apologize for the quick break. Today's episode is mainly going to be around, well, first of all, it's going to be a Tony monologue, which doesn't happen too often, and so I hopefully don't bore you at all. Of course, I worry about that sometimes, but this is a solo show today. But today's really about St. Joe's basketball, and it was A10 Media Day. I actually had my press pass, couldn't go and answer questions because, good thing I didn't. I had no idea that it was going to be streamed on ESPN+. So it was going to be recorded, and if I had asked a question, it would be on ESPN+. Well, I have a day job. I don't write about basketball for fun or for a living. I do it for fun, I should rather say. And so if I had gotten and asked the question, it would have been recorded on ESPN's archives. There I am asking a question 1:30 in the afternoon. And if my boss ever found out I was doing that, that'd be trouble. So it was just like, probably best not to ask any questions. Not even to attend. I couldn't even attend. I was on a call. It was so unfortunate. But I was able to watch the playback. I do have access to that. And so at the minimum, I was able to go back, see what Billy Lange had to say, see what Taylor Funk had to say. And they said some interesting things, and we're going to get into it. I've got a couple recordings here. I also heard some things. I couldn't record some parts, but I do remember what was said, especially. So for one thing we're going to hit on is the Casper. We're really going to struggle to say his name this year, but it's the Casper Klaczek or Klaczek. I'm sure Billy knows how to say it in Polish by now. I don't, but we will learn how to say it by the end of the year. Billy gave an answer around Casper that's just unbelievable. It's what, Matt Gifford from 24/7 Sports had indicated to us when we were on the A10 Talk podcast. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go check it out. It's a great way to preview the season for the St. Joe's Hawks. And Billy Lange gave some interesting answers. One around, as I just said, Casper. Another one around the excitement of the team. And then Taylor Funk and Jordan Hall both came on. Jordan Hall was asked, someone straight up asked him, why'd you come back? What did you learn? And he kind of gave the runaround on what did you learn from the NBA scouts. They didn't really want to tell him, or he didn't want to divulge in what they had told him. And so I would have liked to hear what the truth was around why NBA or what NBA scouts told him, but we won't know. He'll never tell us. Someone asked him straight up, and he gave the runaround around that. So I don't think we'll ever know. But there were some other interesting questions regarding team energy, team chemistry. I think if I was at the press conference, if I was able to actually attend, if I didn't have work in the middle of the day, I think the first question I would have asked Taylor and Jordan would have been, who do you fear at practice? I don't think that was covered. And it might have indicated to us, well, maybe it's Eric Reynolds and we don't know it. Or maybe it is actually Casper, as we think. All of a sudden, the 6'8" monster is as good as we think he is. And I also want to read today something from Hawk Hill Hardwood as well that he had written that was really good. That once again, that's Matt Gifford. So, and we'll get into that. I'll read a couple blurbs. There's a lot to cover today around St. Joe's. But that's the first question I would have asked Taylor Funk and Jordan Hall. Who scares you the most at practice? Who do you fear going up against? I want to know, because we all know how good Jordan Hall is going to be. We all know how good Taylor Funk is going to be. Well, we don't know how good Charles Coleman is. We don't know how good Obina is. Obina's flashed some greatness. Not greatness, but he's shown that he's good, or could be. And other times he hasn't. And I'd really like to know, who do they fear? A question I would have asked Billy, if I had guts, the first question I would have asked Billy Lange would have been, do you fear your job is going to be removed from you? Of course, I wasn't going to ask. I wouldn't have asked that. Only a true reporter with gall would have asked that. So let's start off with A10 Media Day with the first thing that happened. And the first thing that happened for A10 Media Day was the announcement of the preseason poll, which I thought was extremely accurate, and the announcement of the all A10 team preseason team, which I thought was even better for St. Joe's. And a couple people on the internet, as we all know, always have an issue when St. Joe's gets recognized a little too high for some of their liking. First it was George Mason fans. Now it is St. Louis fans. And we'll go into all of that. So let me read off the first thing for the A10 poll. It goes like this. This is the preseason poll for the Atlantic 10 Conference. 1, St. Bonaventure. 2, St. Richmond. 3, St. Louis. 4, VCU. Now, note, Javante Perkins from St. Louis, who's probably the best player in the A10 this year, just went down with an injury. So St. Louis is probably not going to be that high of a finish. But I continue. This all happened before, all the voting happened before the injury occurred. So we can't blame them for that. So we had 4 VCU, 5 Dayton, 6 Davidson, 7 Rhode Island, 8 George Mason, 9 Massachusetts, 10 St. Joe's, 11 Duquesne, 12 LaSalle, 13 George Washington, 14 Fordham. If you told me that was the end of the A10 and that was the final roster or the standings, I wouldn't be surprised. I would totally think, oh, yep, that definitely happened. There's no reason to believe that did not happen. That sounds pretty accurate if you asked me. Now, personally, I think that Massachusetts is going to finish higher than Mason, which isn't, it's like there's a pass to dunk on Billy Lange. People just don't like him. But if you say one bad thing about Kim English, it's, good luck. And that's true. No one ever speaks ill. No one asks questions about him. It's okay to be excited for them, but not for St. Joe's. I don't know why. It just irks me. And no one answers for it. There's never anyone. I can't get a hold of anyone to talk to me about it. Maybe they're scared. And the list is ever growing. We'll get into our banned list soon, but the list is ever growing. So that's your top 10. And if they're top 14 or your standings for the A10. If you told me that was the standings for this year, I would not be surprised. That seems like a reasonable end. St. Bonaventure, Richmond, St. Louis. Yep, that's kind of their own tier. VCU, now that they have the injury, okay, yeah, they're going to be fourth. Dayton and Davidson, probably going to be close competitors this year, looking to fight each other for certain. They will be jockeying for position for a bye. Davidson and Dayton. They could easily now, one of those two schools could jump to the top 3. Davidson could be a top 3 team, easily. They have one of the best players in the league. That brings us, and speaking of players, that brings us to the players' all-conference team that was voted. So, first team all-conference goes like this. Hyung-Jung Lee from Davidson, totally agree. Jacob Gilliard from Richmond, couldn't agree more. Grant Golden, Richmond, yep, you got it. Osuno, Oshini, I can't always, Oshun, I always thought it was Oshini, whatever. From St. Bonaventure, he's the center, he's really good. Kyle Lofton, St. Bonaventure, senior, he's a guard. And then Javante Perkins. So they do 6 per team. I don't know why they do 6. It should really be 5, but they don't want to hurt people's feelings. Next comes the second all-conference team preseason. And it goes like this. This will interest St. Joe's fans. James Bishop from George Washington. Tyler Burton, Richmond. Jaron Holmes, St. Bonaventure. Taylor Funk, St. Joe's. Jordan Hall, St. Joe's. Vince Williams, VCU. Next, Luka Brajkovic, Davidson. Another name. I'm gonna mess up all the Eastern European names this year. Mustafa Amzil, Dayton. Yep, totally agree. Maybe Mustafa could have been on the second team. Really, he could have been. Josh Adoro, that's George Mason's first player. Okay, that's their. Now they have a transfer this year. Couple transfers, and they could be good. But no, that's Mason's first player this year. He's behind both St. Joe's players. Jeremy Shepard, Rhode Island. Yuri Collins, St. Louis. Yep, that all makes sense. And then we go to the all-defense team, which we won't go into. Mainly because who cares at that point. But people were freaking out that Taylor Funk and Jordan Hall have been elected to the first team or second team, excuse me. We just lost our YouTube stream. Hopefully people can still hear us. That's not good. I just exited out of the wrong... Oh, we're still live. Excellent. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, cool. We're connected. If you lost us there, I apologize. I'd accidentally exited out of the tab. Where I was starting was the fact that there are some people who are upset that Taylor Funk and Jordan Hall are in the top second team. And I'm going to read from one of our favorites. It goes, my only real quibble is the second team. Between Bishop, Hall, and Funk, and where those teams are picked, some tacit acknowledgement that they're piling up numbers on bad teams. Also, I've been selling the limited hype around UMass, Joe's, and Duquesne. So nice to see there's a sanity check. The hype around St. Joe's, yeah, they're 10th. The highest I've seen anyone say St. Joe's is going to finish is 8th. So that, I don't know what hype we're talking about. The second thing we're going to talk about is, first of all, Taylor Funk's best games, if you go on the game log, Taylor Funk's best games last year were against Auburn. Here, I'm going to pull it up right now because I was literally just looking at this. And if you look at it, his best games are not against the bad teams in the A10. It's the opposite. His best games with his highest score are not junk minutes, but high-powered minutes against high-powered competition. Jordan Hall's highest scoring game was against Villanova, and he kept the team in it. So these people just, and then you'll tweet, you can't respond to them. That's the one thing I've learned about it. Our friend THWND Pete, big fan of the show, clearly he wrote us a question last week. He fought someone on Twitter. I couldn't agree more with Pete. He was absolutely right. But I think I've learned that there's no point in arguing with these people. Pete did a great job in a guy named SB Unfurled, I don't know his real name, did this amazing preview piece. And Pete wrote a great article around the start of the season for the St. Joe's Hawks. He wrote this great preview article. Pete, don't just go off tweet. Who cares what a random... Most of these people on A10 Twitter are just not even people. They don't even put their names to anything. They're these like fake accounts. And if you ever told one of them to come onto the show, they'd be like, no. I remember I got in a fight once with, what's his name? The guys who run like the Belk Report, it's called, or whatever. It's some account about Davidson basketball, but I don't know who that person is. It's literally some shadow account, and they do it so they can just say outrageous stuff. They don't put their name to anything. You know, it's easy to tweet out, say, this guy, West Pine Bills. Who is that? SLU men's basketball, all the news and analysis you'll ever need. A reminder, Joe's only won one more game than Fordham in the conference last year and returns mainly the same roster minus Ryan Daly. The teams aren't as far apart as reputation leads fans to believe. This guy doesn't understand that Ryan Daly hogged the ball. The team's different when Ryan Daly's not on the floor. And this brings me back to our original point about Taylor Funk being on the first team, second team All A10. Highest scoring game last year against Dayton. At the end of the season, when it all mattered, team was all together, scored 36 points. Wasn't Ryan Daly who scored 36 points. Wasn't Jordan Hall. It was Taylor Funk who scored 36 points. Rhode Island. Now, Ryan Daly wasn't at that game. And I don't even know if Jordan Hall played, I think. Let me just check that game real quick. Don't want to mislead anyone. I know we're going to have fake news running around, so we just got to look it up. Okay, yeah. Jordan Hall played 32 minutes and scored 4 points. Okay, Taylor Funk and Cameron Brown, 29 and 21 points. They lost to Rhode Island in overtime that game. That was the brutal game. I remember that. Me and producer Sean P were texting each other. Sean P and Tommy Higley were texting each other. 29 points against Rhode Island without Ryan Daly after a COVID pause. Oh, okay. Well, the next game was just Auburn, where he scored 28. Okay. Well, the next game was Richmond, where he scored 22. Okay, yeah, Ryan Daly was at that game. Ryan Daly was at the Auburn game. Against George Mason, the first 123 against Precious George Mason. Remember, Precious George Mason. We can't say a bad word about them. He scored 21 points. Scored 21 points on 45% shooting. Okay, there's a couple junk shots in there. He shot 20 shots. Okay, I get it. But we all know, here's the thing, Taylor Funk is the leader of this team. When he scored 36, he shot 10 for 18. That's highly efficient. No coach would complain if their player shot 10 for 18 when he's the number one scoring option last year. If we look at the average shot per game and we go... Here's the other thing people don't understand. Oh, they're bad players against junk teams. Well, if our team is bad and we're playing good teams and Taylor Funk is scoring that much, how is it junk minutes if St. Joe's is trying to win the game? That's the other point. I just don't get it. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. They're piling up numbers on bad teams. Who else is going to score? And if you're piling up numbers on bad teams, that means the whole defense is focused on you. The whole defense was focused on Ryan Daly. Well, Ryan Daly was on the team. St. Joe's was good because we had good players and they were focused on Ryan Daly and Jordan Hall. And so Taylor Funk had to step up. It actually means that he's better than what you think. When there's less people draped all over him because the team is better, it's just like so ridiculous. I don't understand where these people come from. Piling up bad numbers. So when a player scores a lot because his team's good, is that piling up bad numbers? I think it's piling up numbers when you're on a good team and it's so easy to score. I would call that piling up numbers. But when you're the only scoring option on the team with a freshman guard and your returning scorer who's out, who else is going to shoot? Taylor Funk's the only one who can shoot at a decent clip. Okay, he shoots 20 shots, but if he averages 50% shooting on 20 shots, I think that's still pretty good. There are players who shoot 30 shots and only put it in the basket 10 times. That's high usage, but if you're shooting 50% and you're the only scoring option on the team, I don't really consider that piling a lot of numbers. I think that's just a lot of excuses that you, George Mason fans, only have one guy on the third team all conference, and you don't like that. Okay, that's fine, but admit it. And I'm willing to admit St. Joe's wasn't that good last year. Of course they weren't that good last year. But it just doesn't compute logically to think that a guy like Taylor Funk, who everyone's focused on stopping him from scoring because Ryan Daly's out and Jordan Hall's really not the main scorer, and he goes and he averages 17 points for the season. His shooting averages last year, okay, for 2021, 48% from the field and 35% from three. That's pretty good. And he shoots 83% from the free throw line. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that junk numbers, getting shots on the free throw line? Effective field goal percentage, 58%. Now let's go to all the A10 and see where Taylor Funk lines up for that. Right, here we go. We're gonna get those really high usage players. Okay, let's get them all lined up. Let's see where they're at, because it's so important that we see the high usage players. So I'm gonna do a quick calculation here on the show. We're going to look for it. We're at sportsreference.com, our favorite guys. He was on the show. Let's go to the player index, player season finder. Let's do last season. Let's do all players, and then let's search for the conference. It's amazing what the internet can do for you. We're searching, we're calculating the numbers. Okay, field goal attempts. Oh, Nashawn Highland was number. Oh, he's just piling high usage numbers on his. Okay, Jalen Crutcher second, Dayton. Oh, he's just piling high number. Oh, I'm sorry, Kellen Grady, Davidson. Oh, he's just piling high. Javante Perkins, Fats Russells, Blake Francis, Jordan Goodwin, James Bishop, Jaron Holmes, Jordan Miller. Oh, Jordan Miller for George Mason. He only played one extra game in the offseason last year. I'm sorry, he played the same amount of games. Here, we're going to filter on additional games have to be equal to or less than 20. We'll make it fair, right? Because we don't want to mess with anyone. Okay, so games equal or less than 20, okay? Taylor Funk's number one in points. Okay, but in field goal attempts, he's fourth. He's behind Mason. He's behind Blake Francis from Richmond, who only played 20 games last year. Okay? Taylor Funk had less field goal attempts and scored more points. The next is Duquesne. The next is George Washington. Then it's Jordan Hall. 20 games last year. And that's what we're getting. Okay. Got it. And that doesn't include, if we averaged it, we're going to do all the teams, right? I'm going to delete that. We're going to not have that on there. We're going to do all the teams. And then I'm just going to look at effective field goal percentage. If I can find it. Might not be an option with this. Too many stats on that in front of us. But I wish I could compare effective field goal percentage. Love to see that. Oh, I'm sorry. Jordan Hall's 7th in the conference in free throw shooting. He's the first forward, right? Everyone else is a guard. He's the first forward who's shooting above 80% from the free throw line. And his free throw attempts are 17th in the conference. He's only 17th in the conference. So a lot of his points aren't even coming from the free throw line. So he's shooting 50% from the field, right? Which puts him, I believe that puts him around 33rd in the conference. Okay, it's not the greatest in the conference, but considering the fact that he shot 247 attempts and most of the guys ahead of him are under 150. It's unreal. I'm looking at this. He shot 48%. He's the highest person. There's no one ahead of him who shot more than him with a higher. So everyone else that shot more points than him had a lower percentage. Javante Perkins, 284 attempts, had a lower shooting percentage than Taylor Funk. But we're talking about, he's not being used up a lot, right? He only has, Javante Perkins has all these guys around him last year where St. Louis is a better team beating up on other teams. But those aren't junk points, right? When you score a ton on Fordham. That's not junk points for the good team, right? When Taylor Funk, who's the only person who's being surrounded by all the other players on the team because he's the only guy who scores, shoots 48% and better than those guys with people draped around him because he's the worst team. And if you ever play pickup basketball with people who are worse than you, there's a lot more pressure on you to score. Clearly, the people who who tweet these things out are unathletic and don't know what they're talking about sometimes. They don't understand what it's like to be on a bad team and the fact that you have to carry other players across the finish line. Piling up junk minutes, okay, yeah, that's when everyone's focused on you, though, because they don't want to be upset by St. Joe. It's just so ridiculous. So that was that was the outrage. The other outrage, so that was that one. I answered that. Jordan Hall, Taylor Funk, Jordan Hall. Taylor Funk deserves to be on there. He shot extremely efficient. He was the lead scorer for the team. Everyone else shot terribly. He kept this team in games, and he shot an effective 50% from the field on a pretty high usage margin. Yeah, he was high usage, but he's the best player, and he's trying to carry the team. And when you shoot 50%, when 3 guys are draped all over you from Auburn, you're pretty good. When Dayton doesn't want to get smacked around and we beat you he scores 36 on you, that's not, okay, then he's piling junk numbers on, I guess, because him and Ryan Daly are there and they're just dunking on you because it turns out they're better than when the team was fully healthy. No one wants to recognize that part either, right? They don't want to recognize the team was good with Ryan Daly, and then when Ryan Daly leaves, they go, well, the team's not as good because Ryan Daly's not there. It's like, what? It's a doublespeak. These people don't know what they're talking about. They're not having a realistic conversation. They're not being honest. No one's an honest broker. It's a shame. It's a real shame. It's a real shame that people are like that, and anyone who disagrees, more than welcome on this show, but no one wants to talk to me, so it's okay. Because I'll probably pull up those facts and they'll go, ooh, well, and I'll go, hey, have you ever played pickup basketball and ever had to carry your team? No, well, I calculated everything and the numbers show up. The team was really inefficient last year. Okay, well, Taylor Funk shot 50% on the field, shooting 247 attempts per game, and he had the highest points among all players who played only 20 games, and he wasn't even the number one field goal attempt. He didn't have number one field goal attempts. Oh, but those are high usage points. No, we can't. No. Well, what do you mean? Players? He's being defended by all these other players. Oh, well, no, that's... well, I'm just out of arguments. Yeah, clearly. A lot of these people are. It's quite sad. Another thing that we are going to do is we're going to actually play clips from Media Day. So those were the A10 top teams. Those were the polls. I couldn't agree more with the ranking of the teams. That totally agree with. The player thing, I totally agree with the players. Other people don't, but they don't want to have a legitimate argument about it. It's quite sad. Let's go. This is Billy Lange talking about the team being very competitive. It was a great quote. Billy Lange's got a great voice for radio. So let's listen to Billy Lange talk.
When you compete the way these guys are competing, things get better just organically, right? So you become a better defensive team because they want to fight. You become a better rebounding team because they want to finish a possession. You become a better offensive team because they don't want to lose, so they value shot selection, they value the ball, they value screening. But to me, it just all goes back to just the competitive level. Listen, I don't think we're going to go undefeated. Maybe we will. We'll try. It's happened here once before in a regular season, so it can happen here on Hawk Hill. But I can tell you this, I cannot wait to play games and fight with this group. I just would, I believe that when we step on the floor, you're going to have to kill us to beat us, which I didn't always feel that way. And so that's part of the maturity of the group for sure. It's part of the incoming guys from Casper to CJ to Edge to Eric are very competitive. And it's part of the group that had to go through a challenging year last year. That was hard on them, and we would talk all season, Aaron, no one likes losing, but there is a trajectory that you're going on, and it's making you tougher. It's making you grittier. It's making you a Hawk. And so these guys just can't wait to compete. And because of that, everything is getting better just because of the competitive nature.
Couldn't have said it better, Billy. I'm not even going to say anything else than Billy Lange understands the pulse of this team. The fact that they've struggled together, the fact that Taylor Funk decided to come back, if they do win, if they are as good as we think they are, they don't have to win the conference. I'm not saying they're going to win the conference. I'm not one of these people pushing anything outrageous other than I'd like for them to be from the 8 to 10 range. We would call that a victory, a step in the right direction. You're out of the bottom 4. Totally agree. Personally, I think 8 would be better. Of course, anyone would agree. But if it's 9, if it's 10, that's fine. Just show me you can consistently beat the teams we scheduled in our non-conference game, and show us that you can beat Fordham, LaSalle, we'll talk about George Mason, but show me that you can beat Fordham, LaSalle, GW, Duquesne, without any problems, without any hiccups, and then show me you can steal a game from UMass. Show me you can steal a game from Mason. Show me you can steal a game from St. Louis or VCU or Davidson, especially VCU, SLU. Now they're not as good, and we can not easily beat them, but if we are as good as we think, if we are a 10 through 8 team, 10 through 8 teams steal games from top 5 teams in the conference sometimes. It happens. So I think I really like to hear that Billy Lange is showing these guys have been it together. There are new faces. This isn't the same team as last year. No matter what, some St. Louis fan should be worried about his own team, not ours. His team is going down the wrong path with very important players being injured. I feel terrible that happened. But what goes through your mind when you wake up the next day and you go, I'm going to tweet that St. Joe's is worse than Fordham, other than you just want attention? But Billy Lange doesn't listen, and that's what I love about Billy Lange. He doesn't know that these people say this about. He doesn't care. He's the one who has to stand on the side. You think he wants to lose? He's the one who's standing on the side. People act like he's purposely trying to make the team worse. Injuries happened last year. COVID happened last year. These guys are still bought it. You know why he's a good coach? Because after all the losing, no one left the team. They all believe in themselves. They all think that they can be better. They all think that they can win games. They all think last year was a fluke and that this year they're going to show it. And that at the end of last year, when they went on a 5-game winning streak, when they showed that they could beat good teams, when they showed that they can handle LaSalle no problem, they said, that was us. You didn't get to see us because no one really talked about our COVID pauses. No one talked about our stop and starts. No one talked about our hardest non-conference schedule. They just want to dogpile on the record. And sure, yeah, the record wasn't great. No, it was terrible. But they still believe in themselves, and Billy Lange just showed it. These guys have been through the hardest, and I want Casper out there. I want him to be in people's faces. I can't wait to piss off other teams. They're saying about this about us right now. I can't wait for Casper to get in all their faces. I want him to be the most hated player in the A10. I want that. Because we already are. They don't like us because we are the ones with the most success. They don't like us because we said, no, we're better than the 500 record Phil Martelli gave us, and we're going to retool and we're going to get better because St. Joe's history of basketball at St. Joe's didn't start and stop with the name Phil Martelli. There were other people who were at St. Joe's who were playing basketball for us, who were coaching in the NBA. We are a longer and more historic tradition, and great programs move on when it's time to move on. And people don't like that. People don't like that St. Joe's carries themselves that way. They don't like that we are Philly fans. They get angry when we push back. They don't like them when we bring the facts to them. They just like to dismiss us. They like to tweet and write bad articles about us, but they don't really know. They don't sit at Hagen. When they were saying it was terrible to fire Phil Martelli, they weren't in Hagen. They don't know. They don't care. They don't like us because we're better than them. We have a better history than them. Maybe LaSalle, but even LaSalle didn't have as much consistent winning as St. Joe's did, and that's a fact. Okay, UMass is maybe the only one, but really they rose and fell with Calipari. The only team that was in the A10 that had the history St. Joe's did was Temple, and they left. George Mason had one good run, and we're acting like they're a staple in the conference. I don't think they really are just yet. They haven't won anything in the conference. People like to, and I guess in some degree they like to dunk on Billy Lange because they hate seeing St. Joe's be so bad. Sure, you can look at it like that. I'm sure I'll give a charitable view. There are probably people who do view things like that. But the amount of dunking on St. Joe's is insane. The amount of hate towards Billy Lange, they just can't get over it. It's quite sad. And it was going to happen because Don DeJulia retired, and that's the part they don't know. They didn't know the name Don DeJulia. But every school that gets rid of their athletic director, the coach goes next. That's the way it always has been. It happens in football all the time. Ed Orgeron won an LSU a title. He's gone. Phil Martelli goes 500. Phil Martelli's gone. And they still haven't gotten over it. But back to my original point, and the thing that started this whole thing is Billy Lange knows that this team's better. All the haters can say what they want. All the detractors can say what they want. It could be in a most charitable view. They could be saying it because they want St. Joe's to be good, but I highly doubt that. Billy Lange is the one who at the end of the day sits on the sidelines. He's the one who knows what this team is capable of. He knows that they can win. I think he believes in them, and they clearly believe in him because they all came back. And they're not giving them enough credit for that. And so I love that answer from Billy Lange. Let's go to now, and to emphasize that, let's go to Taylor Funk.
A lot of good positive energy out here.
He's talking about energy.
Yeah, I just think everyone's very hungry, excited for the season. New guys bring a whole new level to that. It's always nice to add new players to a team when they kind of struggle from the year in the previous year. And when I say struggle, I don't mean just as like a team. I just think we got a lot of unfortunate occurrences happen to us. I mean, injuries, you can never plan for something like that to happen. And like Coach Lange said earlier, I think we would have had a very good team last year if we all stayed healthy. But yeah, just bringing these new players in here, it's just the competitive nature every single day in practice, in our scrimmage. I just think we're all really excited to get on the floor and compete.
I'm so excited to watch them compete. Truly. They're going to be great. Once again, I don't need them to be great. They could be 10th in the conference. That's fine. Totally agree. I'm willing to entertain, and I'm willing to entertain people who think, yeah, I don't think they're going to be that good, but give me legitimate reasons. We all know that Taylor Funk was one of the more improved players last year. Don't say those were junk minutes. He was the only guy scoring on the team. He was the focus of the defense, the opposing defense, and he still scored with high efficiency. High enough efficiency that I would be okay with it. That if he was the third best player on the team, you'd be okay with your third best player shooting 36% from the three. His numbers would be better if he was the third player on the team because they would be less distracted. Taylor Funk would shoot 50% from three if there was another guy on the court to really draw it in, not a freshman learning how to play. Great answer from Taylor Funk. Great answer from Billy Lange. I couldn't be more excited for the Hawks. Great preseason poll. I'd be okay if they finished 10th, but let's get greedy. Let's go after more of them. Billy Lange gave the great answer. He knows that this team is going to struggle or has struggled and that they want to be great, and I totally think that he truly believes that. People like higher energy coaches, and I like Billy Lange because he's a high energy coach. And finally, the thing that matters most is the fact that we can't listen to other schools. I've realized that. I have Tommy Higley, Sean P, THWND Pete, fan of the show. We all of us, Jimmy, we all can't care what other schools say about St. Joe's. They can say what they want. They can look foolish when we're good. That's fine. They can be right at the end of the day. That's fine. They're not the one who has to watch the game. That's our job. We're the St. Joe's. St. Louis, George Mason, George W., UMass, Dayton, Davids, none of those people are St. Joe's fans. If they were, they'd say, I'm a St. Joe's fan. They wouldn't be called the Davidson Report or the Fordham Facts. Check out our basketball facts. These are I'm making stuff up, but they clearly don't care about St. Joe's. Otherwise, they'd say, I'm a St. Joe's fan. So we got to stop listening to them. They're not invested. They don't have season tickets. I have season tickets. My voice matters more. I'm the one with the season ticket. I'm the one who sits in Hagen Arena. Just like when we had the coaching change. I was the one at Hagen Arena. Not the people from the Philly Inquirer. Now, they weren't there. I was there. I was looking at it. I had a stake in it more than most people. We have a stake in it more than most people. That's a simple fact. We got to keep that in mind. We got to keep persevering. We got to keep doing what's right for the Hawks. Keep supporting them. Sure, we might lose 3, 4, 5. I predicted that we're going to lose 4 or 5 games in a row this year. That doesn't mean we don't hit our goal. That doesn't mean you quit. When we're in the race and you're struggling at mile 4 and you got 3 more to go, you don't stop. Okay, that was one bad mile. You keep persevering. I've been in many races where I've had a bad middle part and I come back at the end and we finish and it's okay. Not a world beater, but we persevere and we do a decent job and we hold up the team and we make sure that we don't fall apart. We finish where we can build on success for when we are feeling good or when we are fully healthy or when we are a complete team. There are years when we used to go into the A10 title, we knew we weren't going to win. But the coach would come in and say, but beat as many people as you can because come next year, we want to win. We are going to be winners. We have young talent growing to be winners. See, that's the, most people don't know that. They've never been in that situation. They've never seen the pressure of college athletics. They don't want to know it's like, I know what it's like to be on a team that's struggling. And I also know what it's like to be on a team that's winning. And when you're struggling, you have to have perseverance. You have to have positivity. You got to take your victories when you find them. And you got to support your teammates, everyone. Because you just never know where you're going to be in 6 months. And that's a fact. Well, that does it for today's show. We're going to do it. Oh, the band list. So I'm going to wait till Jimmy's on the show. And we have an exciting announcement. I'm going to wait till Jimmy's on the show, but I'm going to tell you what the band list is. The band list is something that producer Tommy has put together where he has listed out all of the people who cannot come back and cheer for St. Joe's when they do find success. Similar to, if everyone remembers, at the end of last year, and A10 Talk did this a lot. Once Ryan Daly started scoring, I love Ryan Daly. Oh, St. Joe's is so much fun to watch. All of a sudden, when they start scoring, a lot of people come around the bandwagon and try to hitch their horse onto it. So Tommy Higley has come out and made a list. I will give you one name from the list. The first name, well, Tommy put on Scott Van Pelt. I'm sure he's listening to this show. Scott Van Pelt of ESPN, who I actually really like. But this is Tommy's list with my help, but mainly Tommy's list. He gave me a lot of these names. That's the first name on the list. I will reveal the rest of the names on the list on the next episode of Tony's Takes, where we will be joined by the one, by the only, the Gola Standard. That's right, folks. The Gola Standard is going to be on the next episode of Tony's Takes. You heard it here first. I've brought Rich and Dennis back on the show. Note, Rich and Dennis had picked an argument with me way back before they ever reached Twitter popularity. They came on the show in December. We had January. We had a ton of fun. I went on their show in February. Had a ton of fun there. It's a fun rivalry. Really captures the Big Five. We are Big Five elitists in the A10, that's for sure. And so the Gola Standard's going to come on the show. We're going to have a lot of fun. I told them, I warned them, we're not holding back here. Me and Jimmy are going to go full speed. So it should be good. And that's it. That's my big announcement. The list will be revealed with the Gola Standard on the list. They're not on the list, but with them in the episode. That'd be bad if they were on the. I'm inviting them to tell them they're on the list. No. And that's where we will reveal it, and we'll have it next week. So I'm really excited, really glad that they're going to spend the time with us. They've been big supporters of the show, and I've always thought that they were funny. I mean, they are funny. It's not even about thinking. It's just a fact. Can't deny objective reality. Well, that does it for today's episode. Really appreciate everyone listening in, whether you're listening on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, please do. That's where we tweet out latest episodes, acknowledgments of when we're going to be live, and when we have special guests like the Gola Standard. The Twitter account for the show is @Tonys_takes. Once again, that's @Tonys_takes. Feel free to submit questions in the mailbag through a DM to our Twitter account. We will read it on the show. Speaking of questions, feel free to mail them to our email account, tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. Once again, the mailbag is tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, like and subscribe, and double-click the notification bell. That way you get notified every time we go live. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, you haven't left a 5-star review, please do so. Leave a written 5-star review, and we will read it out loud on the show. Well, that does it for this episode of Tony's Takes. We are really excited for the Hawks season. It's coming down the wire. We're going to have some A10 friends on the show. We're going to talk all things Hawks coming up for the next weeks. Me and Jim will tweet out our picks for the Eagles this Saturday. Me and Jim went 0-2, but I didn't want to cover it on the show because we're mainly talking St. Joe's basketball. But we are watching it. Don't worry, we will tweet that out. And that's everything. I think that's all the house cleaning items that we needed to do. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Tony's Takes. Super excited for the season for St. Joe's basketball. I hope you are as well. Look forward to seeing everyone on the next episode of Tony's Takes. You've been listening to the best show in sports talk radio. It is Tony's Takes.
The premier sports talk radio is Tony's Takes.
Here we go.